Welcome to the Mystery Channel, where the veil is thin and the echoes of ancient knowledge speak through myth, magic, and the turning of the cards.
Everyone was talking about Madame Lenormand's Secret Society of Mercury. I don't know if you heard about that, but that would be interesting if that's actually true.
The Secret Society of Mercury. Yeah. You know, there was also this. You're always way too interesting what you say. That's not good for the time. But you know, there is something. I don't know if you know that concept of convergent evolutions, that they're at the same time in different parts of the world without them being in direct contact, that they do somehow the same inventions, or that there somehow is the same evolutions in health insights or economically, you know. But that's something that's also maybe a bridge to the original Illuminati, the Bavarian Freemasons Lodge, which was a more revolutionary force for humanism, or like how do you call it, enlightenment.
Yeah.
And they also but you said Mercury, didn't you?
Yeah, there was a book, Introduction to Madame Lenormand, but basically they focused on the cards, but they talked about that she was a part of some secret society of Mercury, but never elaborated. So it probably wasn't true, maybe, but I don't know. They like to throw like a little bomb in these things with facts about Madame Lenormand, you know?
Yeah, you know, maybe that's something interesting. So always write everything down to research and come back with a novel or with a something hot from the press later on. So I don't know for sure. She read a lot about herself, of course, and then you can think, okay, is it true, or is it, because she was also the very first somehow doing good marketing. she was revolutionary in that regard. So she really somehow, sometimes it's like she really believed in herself, and she made her gradual upmarch through the ranks until the top knot society. And she really believed in it right away. So Madame Lenormand is a success story.
So
That's
much so.
also something. You know, in France, she is also the precursor of Jeanne d'Arc. You know, and that's also something, and French thought, which is something. They like to be, or they often see the woman as a revolutionary force, because there was also this emblem in the French Revolution with the female with the Phrygian head. I don't know if you know that image. So there's also an allusion to Jeanne d'Arc and all that.
I think talking about that thing like with during the French Revolution, right? With like Olympe and that other woman. Or am I off base?
Yeah.
Welcome to Mystery Channel, because we're journeying back to revolutionary France, Madame Lenormand, and a fortune teller, and unraveling the life and legend.
Oh, everyone.
Yay, I know.
So
it's an exciting topic.
Madame Lenormand, she really is a celebrity, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yes. Even in her time, even in that time. That's why I'm fascinated to learn more about it, to delve more into it, the truths of it.
Yeah. You know, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about Madame Lenormand, and that there is a lot of the real story that is not known yet in the Anglo world, since the old sources are almost only in French or other languages. Like there are some Dutch books about that. But yeah, so that's time or it's about time to bring the real story here, isn't it, Morgan?
Yes, yeah, the truth of it.
So yeah, so yeah, the biggest thing to start with, even though she maybe is or became famous in nowadays times due to the Petit Lenormand cards, the cards for cartomancy, fortune telling cards. But she somehow lent her name for that because that was more a promotional stunt back then because those cards who became famous they were typical German fortune telling cards, or so to say, they started out there, yeah, as German fortune telling cards, but they really came from a board game, the Das Spiel der Hoffnung, so the game of hope. Anyway, so but Madame Lenormand never had anything to do with those cards. So she just was taken for that for promotional goals, and that was a very clever action to do so. Yeah. But yeah, there was another cartomancy deck, the Grand Jeu Lenormand. So you have Le Petit Jeu, so the small Lenormand, and you have Le Grand Jeu, the big Lenormand. And you know, if you are really a Madame Lenormand adept somehow, you it would be probably much more logically to really dive into the Grand Jeu because if we read her works, she did a lot of things. You know, she was uh, maybe cartomancy was somehow her core business as you read all the sources, but she did a lot of other stuff. You know, whatever existed, I think she did. She also did palmistry. She did like egg reading on water. She did, yeah, whatever. She was into Greek mythology. She was into reading sand and all that. There were a lot of divination tools, and she was using them all if you read the sources. So, and the Grand Jeu is somehow, yeah, a fortune telling deck that has all our interest incorporated. So,
Yeah.
but again, those Grand Jeu cards were also not used by Madame Lenormand as just the same with the Petit Jeu. She never used it. So the cards she used, you know, France was always very famous for reading cards, cartomancy, but really the playing card cartomancy, and that's due to Jean-Baptiste Aliette, another Parisian cartomancer. And he somehow goes into history as the first professional cartomancer. And he was also the first who somehow wrote a book on how to read ordinary game of playing cards. And if you read her work, there are allusions towards work of Etea, but it's not something that's for sure. But yeah, in that regard, she was somehow a jack of all trades. And it seems not like a master of none, but a master of all somehow. She was someone very, very interesting, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, what
absolutely.
do you want to know from her, Morgan? What do you think? What gaps do we have to fill in here?
Well, I know because in America we don't have the books; we just have the books that people write, so their opinions. And there's a lot of people with differing opinions, especially
Hmm.
on how she talked about the cards, how she used the cards, especially with some people saying that she did make the original deck, which we know is not true, but also how she had the 54 deck. But fascinating too is that she used coffee beans and coffee grinds as she did the cards by sprinkling over it. I don't know if you heard that or if that's true.
Gets mythical proportions, and people really want to keep magic alive, I think, in that regard. So yeah, that she was born in Alençon, that's in French Normandy, and yeah, she was an orphan, and yeah, she went to school, and how do you call it? The translation.
That or not like a convent, right? She went to school at the convent, or is
Yes,
that
yes,
also not true?
sorry. She was an orphan, and she went to school to a convent. And just few years after the French Revolution, I think that she must have been about 20 years, she moved to Paris. Um, Paris, back then, post-revolution, people did not um, get richer from the revolution. So everything was as shit as it was ever before. And but the big difference was that they went to a lot of horror, went to a lot of crazy stuff in that regard. So it was quite traumatized, and people were really, really poor. You know,
Oh,
there was a big difference in level of people in regards of money and regards of status and all that. So people were that poor, if you read accounts from that era, that they somehow were seeking through the street stones for the nails who fell out of the hooves of the horses. Can you imagine? And that they somehow exchange it for money or for some bread, and even in those days, people would have to make money with whatever was at hand. And then you see in history that people really all become inventors if they have to. So some really earned their money by walking through Paris all day in the dirty streets with just a plank. If people from the Beau Monde were there, that they did not have to cross a dirty street, so that they somehow with a plank somehow made a new path. So can you imagine that era, that yeah, people were so poor, so devastated by revolution, that they somehow need to invent whatever to earn their money or to still their hunger. So there were a lot of street performers, and yeah, you can imagine in such insecure times that soothsayers, cartomancers, palmistries, everyone who could give some tangible hope in your life, that was really very much wanted. And in that era, Madame Lenormand became from zero. She went to somehow hero to the biggest circles of the Beau Monde. When
yeah.
she came to Paris, when she was like 20 years, you must imagine a post-revolutionary city. I think at that time, like maybe 600,000 people inhabiting Paris. For that
Oh, yeah.
time, that was very big. People poor, like I said, all those sentences on the wall with paint, revolutionary.
Yeah.
um, she came there, and people had to live in pensions because somehow Paris was also something special in history always. And
Oh,
even though it was like somehow shocked by revolution, you should see Paris as back then, as besides Berlin, as the Hollywood, where theater players came, where some opera singers and all that came to make a career, and also that exists at that time very much. They came to parents for the adventure, and they stayed in so-called pensions, so made up hotels, because that was also a source of income to put some people in your home. Everything was legit to get some money, even if it's not legit. So, and there in that pension, she got to know two people, a man and a woman. The man was Flammermont, which became her sidekick. And the
Yeah.
other people was Madame Gilbert. And Madame Gilbert, she was already a existing fortune teller. And you can read in the accounts that they were somehow, yeah, bumping into each other, and they were talking. And their first encounter with something new, something what she would be famous for later, was that she were talking about the work of the Swiss pastor Lavatan. And Lavatan was famous for his books on how to read people's faces. So that was somehow the first accounts of somehow body language NLP stuff, back in the day. Can you imagine? And I have the work of Lavatar translated, and it's
Oh,
really bang out of all. But I read it so many times because, yeah, I really have to laugh with how bold, how crazy he puts it out there. But that work back then was somehow, yeah, that was something new, that was hot item. And
yeah.
she was somehow, okay, learning how to read faces and looking at other people in the pensions and all that. And yeah, they were really having fun with it, but at the same time, they really, yeah, somehow learned something that they could use on the street. And
Mhm.
street performance, if you have nothing, okay, yeah, that's maybe the most logical thing to do, even if there's no work or whatever. Maybe you're singing on the streets, maybe you perform an act or whatever.
Yeah.
So they were sitting there, those three people. Of course, Madame Gilbert already earned their money with soothsaying, with cartomancy, with whatever magic performance that she did. And they decided to do a street act. So Madame Lenormand, she had to dress up like a Native American. So with two ponytails, and she somehow painted her face, and she had somehow like a blanket around her. So, and Flammermont, he was somehow the bodyguard, and he had to walk with the table through Paris, because but Madame Gilbert, she was the head act, you know. So Lenormand was somehow the one attracting attention, dressed up as a Native American. Also back in the days, that's something not seen yet. The world was still small in that regard, and yeah, they were very clever in that regard. But after a while,
Yeah.
Madame Lenormand, she seemed like a fast learner, but also needed money. And she was somehow asking Madame Gilbert, okay, can I also perform once in a while something, And then there was that stage that she somehow learned how to do cartomancy, and she seemed to be a very curious student, but also someone very determined to get out of that shitty situation somehow. So all
Yeah.
that went together. And there are some really great accounts, Morgan, from that era, since post-revolution. So early 19th century, that was so, well, that was a shocking new things came to the world, to a
Oh,
traditional world that was somehow uh, some years ago still a very strict monarchy with the social the typical old school Indo-European structures from the three levels of the clergy, so and the nobility and the workers. So that was, those were strange times. But also in
Oh,
regards
very.
of chemical revolutions and all that. And can you imagine back in the day with all those street performance, there was this Belgian man. His name is Etienne, something in between Robert, and he was known as Robertson, I think. But he was a famous magician, and he was very well known for projection of illusions with all that, and he could really project on those big, large, old static buildings of Paris. So can you imagine? People never saw that. People really
Yeah.
fainted. They somehow, yeah, were thinking this is like a UFO is hanging on top of your head. This is like the end of the world. Can you imagine? And there were
Yeah.
also in that regard, since those new electrical in regards of of magic, and there are
Yeah.
accounts of people even invented shoes to walk over the river, under
Yeah.
the eye of everything sunk. So until now, as far as I know, only Jesus succeeded better and better in fortune telling, and she became famous on the street. So famous that at one moment she was able to have a fixed cabinet where
Uh,
she then consulted people. She even got in the ranks of Napoleon, so to say, his
yeah.
wife back then, Josephine. And from there on,
Yeah.
it became very famous. And
Yeah.
there are so much interesting things to say about that, but we will do that in other episodes.
Yeah.
As long
That.
as everyone should understand that Madame Lenormand, she is really a real celebrity,
Oh, yeah.
and whatever you think about it, there are also several ways to look at, and the truth is always layered. That's what I find.
Oh,
So if we look at it from a position view in regards of cartomancy, people will make her somehow, yes, as an hero in that regard. But viewed from another way, you could also say, okay, but it's also very short to be a con artist, and maybe also an because there are substantial evidence that she worked from the state affairs and all that. But she
yeah.
always got away with everything, and from the moment that this uh, famous person in the state, we will talk about it in another episode, disappears, the hand above her head, she also was captured right away into custody.
Oh, yeah.
She did a lot of brilliant things afterwards, but that's for another episode. So I
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
that somehow I filled in some gaps already, Morgan.
Yeah.
But do you think people listening in want to find out, or in the Anglo world, especially about Madame Lenormand in regards of her biography?
About them wanting to learn? Absolutely. Because there's so many misconceptions and people have their own ideas and everyone thinks they, read one thing and then just talk about that. Because, like you were saying, she was a jack of all trades. She liked to do everything from the face reading, palm reading, putting astrology into her cards, numerology, not just cartomancy. Thing to, yeah, know about that, especially since, like, she was a woman in unheard times doing her whole business by herself, getting out there and just conquering the world with the cartomancy.
Yeah. France has always been
If that
famous
makes
for their
sense.
women. So you have Madame Lenormand, you have Jeanne d'Arc.
Mostly France, though, I'd assume. They definitely, yeah, the forefront of all that. But that's what gave
Yeah.
her the, ability to get out there and do all of that as well. Especially with
Yeah.
everything they said she had, secret society or, being a part of all of that during that French time. This is just the start of Madame Lenormand. We're going to dive deeper into her cards, into how she inspired the cartomancy world, or taking her and
Yeah.
even the French Revolution to the next level for the next episodes. The cards were shaped around her, and why she was chosen to even, represent the cards is always a fascinating subject for next time.
Yes, very much. And we will make the link between all the fractions. She as a person, cartomancy, but then we somehow segue towards the cards and the relevance. Yeah, come with us on
Yeah.
this very interesting journey because we will bring things to the table that have never been spoken about in the Anglo world, I think. So be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say until next time.
Yes. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up so you can continue following us on the adventures.